Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our Hockey Hotline podcast, episode 13. I'm Dave Walker, Great Park Ice hockey manager, along with John Meinberger and Vince Fias from our hockey management team. Today, we've got a special episode. We've got three of our past Anaheim Ducks players and part of our Ducks alumni group that are strong contributors to our grassroots sessions that we have across our rinks. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to sit down and talk to the three of these players, past players and contributors to our programs about not only their time with our grassroots, but, you know, little background on their own personal journey through the hockey world. We have Jason Marshall, Sean Pronger, and Bryan Allen joining us today. So, guys, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome, boys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
No problem. So first, I'll start with you, Marshy. For our customers that don't know and viewers, in 1989, you were a first-round draft pick, 9th overall by the St. Louis Blues. You actually won an IHL championship in 1991, the same year that you won a gold medal with the World Junior Championship, representing Canada, guys.
Okay, well, there you go.
I spent parts of 7 seasons with the Ducks, starting 94, ending in 2005, and accumulated 526 NHL games. I spent 3 years in Europe playing in Czech and 2 years in Germany, the DEL league over in Germany with Frankfurt and Cologne. And you're also current member coaching staff of the Junior Ducks as well as the Santa Margarita Eagles hockey team. So Jason, thanks for jumping on and being part of this podcast today.
Well, that's a great introduction. Thanks. All those teams.
Yeah. Our next guest, Bryan Allen, was a 1998 NHL draft pick, first round, 4th overall by the Vancouver Canucks. He won an OHL title with the Oshawa Generals and moved on, played in the Memorial Cup. Was that hosted by the Hull Olympics, I believe, that year?
Yeah, it was in Hull.
Was also won a silver medal with the Under-20 World Junior Championships. Accumulated 721 NHL games, spending parts of 3 seasons with our Anaheim Ducks. Bryan was also helped with our high school hockey league with the JCR Alliance. Bryan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
And last but not least, we have Sean Pronger, who also was a 1991 NHL draft pick, round 3, 51st overall by the Vancouver Canucks. Sean is a 4-year NCAA athlete at Bowling Green, and his senior year was nominated as the captain of that hockey program. Sean spent parts of 3 seasons with our Anaheim Ducks, accumulating 260 NHL games. Played last professional season with Frankfurt in the German DEL, and is the author of the popular Journeyman. Sean, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
First thing first, guys. You know, obviously, thanks for joining us. But what have you three been doing during this COVID time to kind of stay busy?
I'll go first, I guess. I've been working out a lot. I've been reading a lot, and I've been watching the time a lot.
There's a lot of lots.
A lot. There's a lot of time to kill when you got to be at home or close to it.
Yeah.
I'm used to traveling for work, so I'm trying to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, it's crazy for us. We got 2 kids here, so it's been sort of that adjustment period when they came home from school and we had to homeschool. But between them and I don't even know, watching movies, I think I've watched all of Netflix. Yeah, but really, it's been sort of a blessing in disguise too. To realize our kids are 9 and 12. Like, we're never going to get this chance to spend this much time with them. As much as it can be frustrating at the time that you're on top of each other constantly and around each other, but trying to put things in perspective and take advantage of this time too. You know, we realize almost how busy our lives had been, or we make our lives. You know, trying to do everything for the kids, ourselves, and work, and whatever it is that we overwhelm ourselves, I think, sometimes. So it was good. It was a good little break.
Yeah, I could agree with being a partial educator. You know, to add to your guys' list has always been a challenge. And Walks has gotten a little bit used to it because his daughter was homeschool, so he kind of laughs at us that all the things that we have to go through trying to teach our kids, at this moment.
Well, just to add to Bryan and Sean, there's a lot of home time. I I've been working at home since the start of March. So I had a long commute before, and I don't miss that. But kind of like what Bryan said, it's been great to spend time together. We've discovered riding bikes again, which is amazing. We've probably went to every street alley within a 15-minute ride of our house. So that part's been a pleasant surprise.
Nice, nice. So sticking with you right now, Jason. Obviously, your last 2 years you played in Europe. Now, for a lot of people, and realize this, a lot of people believe that Europe is not as physical as our North American game. But doing some of the research, I noticed on your DB it says that you the number one penalized player in 2006, 2007, with 250 plus penalty minutes in Europe. What did you not get the memo that it's supposed to be a little bit more of a finesse game over there?
Well, I took a little while to get used to the rules. There's no fighting and stuff, but the hitting part took a little bit getting used to. I think a good check over here is a suspension or a pretty big penalty over there. So
10-minute misconducts, like they're going up style.
But I learned my second year, and all in all, we had a great time. It was great hockey. There was tons of
nice
American people there. So when I think back, there are a lot of great memories. It was probably some of my favorite moments in hockey.
And obviously, you played in Cologne and Frankfurt, two really nice cities. How would you compare just the overall play from when you went over there, coming from the NHL?
Well, you know what? Like I said, I was really surprised at the skill. I mean, these players are all college. Well, even more than college, they're all pro players. Even the German guys are great players now. You see a lot of guys coming out of Germany now. So it's obviously it's not as high of a caliber as the NHL, but the skill level is right up there with the minors and all the top farm teams for sure.
Right on. Bryan, you were part of that stadium series with Anaheim and LA. Talk about the difference with that type of stadium series, where you look at a lot of these other stadium series games on TV and they're being played in these cold winter climates with snow and the elements playing a major factor. How different was the game being able to play, obviously, Dodger Stadium in front of all those people, but in the kind of the elements that we have here in Southern California?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, just that game on its own was such an amazing experience. Playing in Anaheim and non-traditional markets that we're seeing all these games in more of the traditional markets and where it's snow and the outdoor sort of pond game mentality. I never thought there would be an opportunity that we would actually get to play in one of these games. And then coming to Southern California was pretty cool. Again, like, it was one of the highlights of my career playing in that game. Everything, the hype the day before, getting out there with your family and my parents, and just the whole experience. It was almost so surreal to compare it to a regular NHL game. But it can still have one of those memories that's very vivid of walking out towards the game with, fireworks going off and in between palm trees. And it was crazy. But it's funny, once you get into sort of a game, I think the crowd, the atmosphere, everything around it sort of gets drawn out. I think the biggest thing was the perception. You didn't realize how the difference of, playing a game, the perception when the puck went, maybe above the boards, you would lose sort of that depth of where the puck might be and stuff. So sure, it was hard on the goalies, but overall, the ice was actually pretty good. I think the technology today, it's amazing what they can do. But if I remember correctly, I think it was overcast that day, which helped. And then the game was, in the later afternoon or early evening, that helped too. So yeah, but again, amazing experience, and was pretty lucky to be part of one of those games, especially when I never thought I was going to get the chance.
Yes, and you think you're not going to get the chance of all places. You come to California and
yeah,
it happens. So, Sean, obviously, we talked about you being part of the book, The Journeyman. you talk about what was the background to that, and what, in you deciding to really go down that avenue and put kind of the years of hockey onto paper? What kind of led you down that path?
It's funny. It started off as a blog. My brother had a website. I think it was from his time in Edmonton. There was a lot of rumors going around, so he wanted to, I think the idea behind him having the website was to kind of clear the air and kind of get his story out. And then it got to him kind of communicating with fans, and then he was looking for people to contribute. So he got a few writers from the hockey world to contribute, and then he kept asking me to write something. I'm like, I'm not a writer, buddy. I'm not going to embarrass myself. And so then he wrote something, and this is funny. I always look back and think, if he never wrote it, I might not have ever written a book or even thought of it. He wrote about him coming to training camp and how, as a star, he's like, I'm looking forward to coming to camp, see the boys, get in a sweat, play some golf, go to dinner. And I'm just like, that is so not my experience at training camp. Training camp to me is like asking guys in the hotel how many days worth of meal money they got to see how much longer I have to stay. Seeing if you had a jersey hanging up in the rink when you got there in the morning, what team you're on. You're living hour to hour, minute to minute, and this guy's talking about, where he's going to get his steak dinner, a week from camp. So that just kind of triggered something in me. I'm like, you know what, people need to hear the other side of the coin, and they got a really good response. And so I'm like, well, I got a lot more of this. And so I just kept writing a weekly thing on his website. And then I got a call from Hockey News. They're like, hey, can we post some of your stuff? I'm like, go ahead. Then I got flown to Toronto for I think it's Off the Record with Michael Landsberg.
Yeah.
He had me there for 2 days. And I'm like, all right, well, I think I got some more. So I just kept writing. I wrote about my first year pro, just really raw stuff. And I shared it with a buddy at the 2010 Olympics. And he's like, this is interesting. You should, maybe consider we didn't even know what to do with it. So luckily he ran into a book agent, and the book agent was asking if he had any unique stories from players. He's like, well, talk to Sean. So he talked to me in 2010, and then I think the book came out in 2012. But yeah, it was kind of funny that if Chris never wrote about his diva-like status at training camp, I never would have wrote anything.
That's funny. Has there ever been talks of kind of book number 2?
Yeah, it's writing itself right now. I don't know. I'll get back to you. Yeah, I don't know. I've thought of it, but I don't know if my life is as interesting as it once was. Getting called up and sent down, 50 times over my career.
So guys, I know we have a lot of young listeners, and you guys are definitely involved in our grassroots programs. Every time we get on the ice, we always ask you guys about your journey. So maybe you guys can, or a few of you can elaborate on what the early stages of your hockey careers, or even just as youth, look like, and maybe some of the challenges you guys faced before you guys even got to, the higher levels.
I can start.
Yeah.
I think for me, I grew up in Canada in a small town called Kingston, Ontario. And you see it maybe, or try to compare it now, living in such a different environment in Southern California compared to there. I think when I was growing up, you don't realize the intensity, the atmosphere that youth hockey really is, just because that's all everyone did at the time, and that's all there was to do. So it's just what all my buddies did, all my friends did, and you just kind of did it. So that part is what I would say is different compared to Southern California, where there's such options for youth sports, and then another layer on top of that, I think it's become such a business in a sense for youth sports, and trying to get the kids' attention and their time to commit to some of these, the club teams, the high school teams, the school teams. It's so much. There's so much available for kids to do, and I think it can be overwhelming for the kids, but then also sometimes parents get caught up in it, of maybe directing or pushing their kid in a certain direction that they want, and so I think going past that, it's like any other journey that a lot of the rest of us went through. But I think that's the biggest difference I know, is that when I was growing up, it was more just what every other kid did. And today it seems like there's a lot more pressure and expectations at such a young age now.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know we've talked about it, Marshy. What do you think about hockey out here? It's kind of a 365 days a year type sport, you know, and we always talk about, you know, introducing other sports to other kids. How do you feel, you know, playing hockey 365 could benefit or even hurt young players in their development?
Well, I've kind of thought it was unique to California, but the more I talk to people and even my friends back home in Canada, it seems like that's the model now. You know, there's no real downtime. The ice never comes out of the building, which was totally different when we were kids. I think at the end of March it was out and it didn't come back in until August, so we had to do other things. But I mean, I think it's a blessing, and then also I think you have to, you know, be careful not to just keep working so hard and doing it all the time where it's not fun anymore. I feel like kind of what Bryan said, there is a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations now, and it comes from all over, the parents, the kids, you know, the model. I don't think it's a bad thing to say, hey, you know what, I need a break a little bit and take some time off. Everybody's a little bit different. Some kids need that challenge to, you know, 12 months out of the year, and some kids maybe need to take some time. I don't think there is a right or wrong answer. It's just how you feel. But I think it's important to, you know, have that passion, the drive, you know, do those things that, you know, even if you go out in your backyard and stick handle and think about, you know, scoring the big goals and dreaming, hey, I want to play college someday. I think those are really important conversations to have internally is a big thing that I stress.
Absolutely. I guess that would lead to another one. Maybe Sean, you could jump on that. You know, we always talk about having fun, you know, but hockey is a performance-based sport. So what do you recommend young players to do to keep, you know, focused on what the ultimate goal is to have fun, right? You know, and not get too caught up in, you know, the step ahead and just kind of be in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think that not look too far. I mean, go on the ice because you want to go on the ice. And then maybe get to the point Marshy was making about his like 365 days of the year. It's kind of hard not to get burnt out. And maybe there's some way to manage that where it's not 365, but you're not taking 5 months off. Because like Marshy was saying, our ice came out in my town in April or March, and it never came back in until October. And so you're dying to play. Like you can't wait for hockey season. And now it's like, all right, I got to go back to the rink. You know, like you don't even know what month it is because you're just going to the rink all the time. So I think, you know, it doesn't mean you need to take a 6-month break, but maybe it's a couple of weeks here and there, maybe in the middle of the season or however the seasons are broken out. And then it certainly doesn't hurt to play other sports or even just work on stuff for hockey, but off the ice and whether it's dryland or even stick handling at home or whatever it is. But I think, you know, it's certainly the drive's got to come from within the player. It can't be, you know, manufactured from the parents, I don't think. And, you know, obviously you see that in every sport. I think for kids that want to go far, they have to have a passion for the game because you're not going to be willing to put the work in if you're not enjoying what you're doing.
What's kind of ironic about this whole situation currently is COVID's kind of forced California kids to try and be away from the rink. So you see, even with my son or, you know, other players that were involved around, you see their kind of passion come back because they've never really been away for too long. And now that they've been forced to be away from the rink and then do other sports and try other things, you know, you definitely see their eagerness to get back and, you know, put some time back on the ice. So it's really cool to see, actually.
Yeah, it is awesome. Hey guys, so, you know, you guys have been part of our grassroots programs and helping out whatnot. I'm sure you've had parents come up to you and ask about, you know, your journeys of what, maybe ask you questions. What do you think the most important thing you would tell a brand new parent from your perspective and how they should, you know, kind of go about it with their kids?
I would say make it fun. Make it like fun. It's not about justifying, you know, you got to do this because it costs this much or whatever. Because I know it's an expensive sport. But just stress the importance of having fun and maybe learning the fundamentals. I think, you know, once you learn how to skate, the game becomes a lot more fun. So I think it's kind of, you know, doing what you guys have done really well, which is teach these kids at a extremely young level how to, you know, get the basics down and be able to skate and be able to kind of be in a position where they can actually play hockey. But But again, I think it comes back to just figuring out a way to make it fun. And the parent standpoint, I know when you guys, being on the ice with you guys is fun for us because you guys have a great way of explaining and making it fun for the kids. So I think as long as the parents remember that the kids need to enjoy it if they're going to continue on, I think that would be the biggest thing.
What's really cool to see you. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say it's a tricky balance. Having my own son that's playing now too, because again, they're kids and the demand for their attention is everywhere. You have the screens and stuff that is available that we never had growing up. So I think there's a fine line of, your kid wanting it and also pushing your kid. I see it with my own son. Like I said, I can give that example that, I think there's some days or sometimes that he's going to want to not do it or not commit to it. So, it's fun when they want to do it, but I think there's also the fact of commitment and learning at that age that they're making a commitment to something. So, when I talk about it with my son, it's like, before they start anything, ask them if they want to do it. If they don't want to do it, then they have to pick something else. But once we sign up for something, you're committed to it, you're doing it. And I think, again, going back to maybe me growing up, it's giving options and making things available for your kid, I think is a good way to kind of lead your kid into, and that can also be a double-edged sword of putting expectations on your kid. But I think there is, a fine balance of pushing your kid and, wanting to do it. I don't know what the perfect age is of when, maybe it clicks for them and they want it and they're asking to do it more and more. But again, it's hard to know that balance, but I think you have to push them a little bit to realize that, that's part of life too. And something that I think is such a great thing with the sport and sports in general is, those life lessons of committing to something and working hard to something. Again, I don't know, maybe it's just my own kid, but it's like them figuring out how to work hard and you have more fun by the more practice you put in, the better you get at something. So there is that fine balance that's, at least for me, is sometimes hard to figure out.
Yeah, one of the cool things I think with fun and what inspires me with you guys on the ice is the fact that you guys have a resume that you guys have and played in so many different situations. But when we get out on the ice and you guys are the grassroots, we see Sean dangling a couple kids and everyone's just having a good time. So for you guys to still go out there and have that passion is inspiring, right? Like, it's just cool that you guys kind of exude that you still love the game, and you guys obviously share that with our students and our kids in our program. So
I bet you Sean likes to dangle out there because he didn't do it when he played, right?
Yeah.
Hey, that 6-year-old dude, you can get him.
That hurts because it's true.
Yeah. Well, and that brings us to a good point here to kind of transition a little bit. Obviously you guys are on the ice helping, being a little bit of mentors for our coaches as they watch and see how you guys interact with the younger players. When you look back at when you started your professional careers, can you think of one or two players that really stood out in terms of helping you and mentoring you as you became a professional?
You mean like in minor hockey, junior hockey?
No, in your professional career. So, when the three of you guys started your professional careers, is there a player or two that you can remember being a big component of teaching you how to be a pro or taking you and showing you kind of the ropes along the way?
I don't know if there's I was never anywhere long enough to have that kind of relationship. So, but I did, you watch the older guys, the guys that have been around for a while, and you just, I would watch how they came to the rink, very even keel, but they put all the work in. It was very almost business-like, the stuff they did off the ice, all the stuff they needed to do to get their body ready or whatever. You just kind of watch as especially as a young player, you're trying to soak it up. But yeah, I don't know if I can say I had a mentor. I wasn't a high draft pick like these two guys, so I had to fend for myself.
So we had some social media questions. We had our marketing team put up that we were doing the podcast with you guys, and we had some participants ask some questions. So we have one from Amy Wesson. She asked you guys, how has hockey in California evolved since you guys played?
I can probably go first.
Go ahead, Marshy.
I mean, it's incredible. If I go back and think to 95 or 94 when we were first here, it wasn't a joke, but it was to have a hockey team down in Anaheim and go out and play, and there's palm trees and stuff. You know, all my friends and back home would make fun of me, but see the growth and the work that, you know, like Sean said, all you guys do every year, and to grow the kids and the kids coming out of California, it's really remarkable with all the teams and the high school programs and the success, like I said, the kids coming to juniors and turning pro. It's really an amazing accomplishment in the last 20, 25 years.
Your friends are making fun of you, Marshy. Did you ask them how cold it was in the winter?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you say it's cold and it's 75 out here right now? Or?
Yeah, you change a little bit once you're down here, but
Yeah.
I think it's amazing too now when I even think of, you know, back in Canada and some of the other towns that either we visited, we talked to, or know about. In some sense, the programs that are put in place here, just because you have to maybe work, or you think you have to work a little harder to grab the attention for hockey and youth sports, some of the programs, it's so impressive, the detail and work that, you know, I only know of the Ducks at the grassroots level, but that they've put in place in the communities and the schools and the different districts to get kids and families into the sport and involved in the sport. I know back in Canada, for me at least, my you know, what I've seen or heard is I don't know if it's just a cultural thing. They just, you know, expect kids and families that they're going to go play hockey, so they don't have all these programs and sort of attention grabbers to help move them towards that sport. And it's getting harder and more competitive, I guess I would say, in Canada, and maybe more of the traditional markets for kids to play other sports. So it's really impressive what I know the Ducks have done.
Absolutely.
That's a good point. You talk about the programs and how the Ducks have really created this environment where we have multiple different programs. And we've talked about this many times on other podcasts, where if you want to play hockey, then we have something for everybody, youth, adult. We cover every, you know, avenue of whether you're a beginner or you've played the game for a long time but took a break and you want to come back. We have something for everyone. So that being said, you know, with the three of you being involved in our grassroots, you know, Sean, I'll let you answer. What's been your favorite part about being involved with our grassroots programs?
I don't know. I love watching kids just figuring out hockey, or like how to skate, and, you know, have a little bit of success every time they come on the ice. So they come back the next day or the next practice, or when they sign up for the next program. I look at them and I think of like how much fun I had at their age. We try, you know, you guys do a great job. We try to make it fun, but just to see the sheer enjoyment of pure enjoyment of the game of hockey, and them, you know, figuring things out for themselves is fun for me. And it's fun to watch and see how many kids come out. And I mean, at the grassroots level, it is amazing the number of kids that are involved. I mean, we had 80 something kids in one ice session, which is ridiculous. Yeah. But that's the extent of the interest in hockey, and I think that speaks to, you know, the program that you guys are putting on.
Absolutely. So we got another social media question. Obviously, you guys are going to have to get a little bit of insight. We, you know, have an alumni guy. So the question is, what's the funniest story from your time with the Ducks at practice or in the locker room? If anyone has the funniest one, jump on in. This is from Linsanity Art. She was part of our social media.
Funniest. This would be a good one to send to us, you know, an hour or so before this.
Yeah. I was just saying that's another podcast probably.
Yeah.
You always get put on the spot with these exact questions, like tell us an inside locker room joke story that happened, and there was things that happened daily, you know, pranks and little inside jokes, and you know, to give one example, I can't really happened for me with the Ducks that was, you know, over the top, I guess.
There you have it, right there. I mean, there's too many that we caught you off guard. So we appreciate that.
Our last social media question is from Mikey Mike is, what was your best memory or moment as a Duck?
I'll go. I think the best memory for me would have been in 1997 when we clinched home ice for the playoffs for the first round. I think we played Dallas, and I was still amazed at how loud the building was. It was like the first time that organization made the playoffs, and we actually clinched like the home ice in the first round, and it was incredible. And then obviously the playoffs in '97 were pretty awesome too. But that would be my favorite memory.
Nice.
That's cool.
Marshy, what would be yours, Brian?
Mine was definitely the outdoor game, Stadium Series game at Dodger Stadium.
Marshy.
Yeah, mine would have to be, like Sean said, the playoffs. The playoffs is such a special time of the year, and to play at home, just, being a part of that was really incredible.
Nice. So I got a question for you. In today's game, who would you pay to go see? What player do you watch on TV and say, I would pay money to go watch that player?
Connor McDavid.
Great.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
That was unanimous. That was
Nice.
Is it? Oh, sorry. I was going to say, like a player like Connor McDavid. Obviously, he's just bar above, like the Sidney Crosby and that. Like, is it surprising to see a player like that at such a young age come into the league and do what he does? Like, do you guys been playing in the league before?
I think yes and no. I think, being now involved a little bit in youth hockey, it's amazing how good these kids are and how skilled they are at such a young age. It's mind-boggling. The stick handling skills, how quick they are, how good they are. Even some kids' awareness on the ice. It's pretty amazing to see. And I know even from my first year to my last year, how much more skilled the game was and was becoming. So yes and no, just because of the fact of he is that good and that exciting to watch.
I think that leads into a good question. You talked about how the game is and how it was. What do you think the major differences in today's game versus when you guys played?
I think the lack of interference, I think, is
definitely.
These guys can fly around with no one dragging them around. Like there is no question that there's no way I could play this league. I'd have about 300 minutes in interference and hooking penalties. But yeah, there's nothing in their way. No one's hooking them. No one's getting in their way. So they can. It's like freewheeling. There's no fear because they don't have to worry about getting hit really. So it's just how fast and there's nothing to hold them back. They're not.
When did you think that time frame kind of you started to see that change? I guess you say from when that type of play was allowed till it started to change into I guess this new way of thinking.
Well, after the one lockout, they implemented those rules of no hooking, no holding up for your D partner. I remember a guy used to beat me wide, and I would basically hook his outside arm, and he would drop the puck or even hold my stick out, pushing him out. And that was a good play. That I was told, like, good job. The next year I'm sitting in the penalty box for it. I'm like, how is this possible? I'm not the small, skilled, quick player. So it took me a little while to adjust to that game.
The one-on-one can opener, you can't do that anymore?
Yeah, that was a special the Brian McCabe.
Marshy, I was going to ask Marshy to get Marshy's take on it. Obviously, Marshy, you've got a couple of young fellas that are involved in the game, and you've been involved with the coaching with the junior Ducks at the high school level. And, when you look back and, I know Brian talked about how skilled these kids are nowadays. You get to see it every day when you're working with these teams. What do you think is the biggest contributor to these kids becoming, developing their skills at such an early age? Is it the amount of ice that they're getting on, or is it just their attention to be able to see a lot of social media stuff in terms of moves and breakdowns of that stuff?
I think it's a combination of everything. It's spending more time training. It's more coaching, better coaching. There's a lot more information out there. So I think all that, really really corresponds to how good the kids are. The more time they do it, and you guys are training, showing them how to do it properly, and having that knowledge is really beneficial.
It's interesting because now being for me on the ice with kids, and maybe in practices and stuff like that, and I'm like, I don't know how to technically teach these kids skills, and it's crazy because maybe just because I played in the NHL, it's like, oh, you can be coach or whatever. I'm like, I don't know how to coach these kids like you guys would, because I don't know how to properly teach a kid how to hold a stick, how to shoot. I was teaching them one thing the other day, and the coach was like, we don't do that anymore. Like, so it's so different now. But I got a question actually for maybe Sean or Jason, but for anyone. What do you think the difference is now for a kid to make it or progress? Maybe, as we all say, like the pyramid gets smaller, but every kid at, whenever they start, 6, 7, 8, whatever, everyone's so focused on, we have practice, we have our teams, but then there's, the shooting skills, there's skating skills, there's stick handling skills, all these extra specialty skills to teach them that stuff. So every kid is going to be a good skater. Every kid is going to be a good puck handler. But what do you think the difference is for a kid to, I don't know, get to that or keep progressing in that pyramid?
It's a great question. I don't know if I can answer. Marcy might be able to, because I've often asked that because I'm not involved in youth hockey as much as I'd like. But so if I watch games, it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
What it's good. Like if I just walk in outside the rink and walk in and start watching a game, everybody looks fast. Everybody looks like they know what they're doing. And so it's hard to really, like, I think probably be terrible as a scout because it's like all these kids look pretty good.
Yeah.
I'll tell you from my perspective as a coach and what I'm looking for, and when I'm traveling and I see other teams, I think the big thing is, like, and you said, Brian, like all the kids are learning how to skate. They're putting a lot of extra time. There's a lot more information out there in terms of teaching and learning different techniques. But I think the big thing I notice is just it's the compete level.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And it's something that's it's not something that you can work on. Like, hey, I'm going to work on my shot today. I'm going to work on my skating today. Like, I think the compete, it's in you or it's not. Right?
Yeah.
You can try to hone that, but I think that's a big part.
Yeah.
I agree with David. I think it's the big ingredient is personality and your desire, determination to like be the best is really important to have.
Yeah, I agree.
You can almost see that, as much as we're all parents and want the best for our kids, but the parents end up probably being sometimes the worst enemy for that kid to excel because they maybe want it more than the kid does. And then the kid pushes away from the game or doesn't develop his own passion or competitiveness or drive. And, their parents are leading it for them instead of letting their kids be inspired by that.
Yeah, actually, I just had that conversation with my son. He's 13, and we just said that, I love the game and I'm passionate about the game, and I know he likes the game, but he has to dig inside and see, where his passion lies, and if it's something that he wants to do, he definitely likes it and he plays, and, I think that he's kind of on that bubble where he likes to do a lot of other things. He's a 13-year-old boy, but, it's something that he has to see where he wants to go with it, and he can't just love it just because he wants to make his dad happy. So it's definitely. Yeah.
And I'm sure I'm obviously not a father or anything, but I'm sure just as a parent, because every kid develops at a different pace, right? And they may, peak at a certain level too. And it's maybe at that peewee age, they're dominating and they're like, okay, he's got it. Like he's going to go. And that's that extra pressure comes all of a sudden now, maybe a couple years later, it starts dying down, plateauing, and then other kids are catching up and then going beyond. So it's kind of finding that right line of kind of what you're talking about, like allowing them to give them a little space, but also letting them find that passion too and love of the game to continue to want it, right? To get that determination. So without being pushed too hard.
I do have one more question for you guys though. When did you guys see in your own games, like this is something that I could actually possibly make it to the NHL? Like what was that pivotal time where you're like, okay, well, this is something I need to pursue and really maybe, I can't say take serious, but you kind of knew that this was possibly an option to go play in the National Hockey League?
Probably about a minute before I got a phone call. Because it's funny, like that's your dream as a kid to play in the NHL. And for, you know, I was small town Canada, Dryden, Ontario, and it was like, that was a dream, but it was one of those dreams like, yeah, I wish I could fly kind of thing, you know? So it was more like, okay, I want to play junior in Thunder Bay. So that I can get a scholarship. I got a scholarship. Okay, I want to get drafted. I get drafted. Okay, I want to play pro. So I played pro, and then eventually you kind of put yourself in position to maybe get a shot at the NHL. But it wasn't like I was sitting there waiting for the phone to ring when it all of a sudden it rang and it was like, hey, you're getting called up. So, and I know it's different for other guys because they have a lot better pedigree and maybe a lot more reasons to think they'll make it. But for me, it wasn't like I wasn't sitting there like annoyed why I wasn't in the NHL and like, what is going on? What do I have to do? I just kind of kept climbing the ladder very slowly, and luckily, I was able to kind of break through and made it at some point. You know, it took a little bit longer than I would have liked, but it was kind of like having short-term goals, and it finally got you there. That's kind of how it worked for me.
Yeah, Sean brings up a great point because people ask me that all the time too. Like, what does my son need to take it to the next level and to make it to the NHL? And people don't realize that, you know, there's the McDavids, the Crosbys, the Niedermayers that are, you know, amazing players all the way up. But the majority or a big chunk of the guys that are in the NHL, they have all different. It's not like just a steady climb all the way up where they're the best player on every team for every year. There's millions of different stories where some guys, you know, just kind of find their own later on, or, you know, some guys were good, then they kind of slowed down and then they decided to work really hard for a couple of years. So I think that's an important thing to remember. Again, not to get too ahead of ourselves and, you know, if you're having a really good year as a squirt, you know, I wouldn't start.
Get an agent.
As a parent too, it's hard to, you know, manage those. And, you know, I would just say enjoy the time you're spending with your kid, because I mean, it's everybody's putting in a big commitment, and try not to think about World Juniors and the NHL and the Stanley Cup. Just kind of take it, you know, year by year and small steps, like Sean said.
Absolutely.
A lot of good information there. A lot of great stories, guys. We're going to wrap it up here, and we always end our podcast with the same questions to our guest. And I'll pose it for all three of you, so all three of you can answer the question. You're allowed to go on a foursome, and you get to pick the perfect foursome. You're part of the foursome, so you got to pick 3 additional people, dead or alive. Who would they be and why? Sean, we'll start with you.
Oh, for God's sakes.
You should have gotten heads up on this question too.
Yeah,
Hey, Bryan, we always tell our list. We always tell people on there, if you haven't listened to any of our other podcasts, we know, because the same question's been the same one for the last 13. So
you guys have a better marketing team. I never even heard this podcast. I'm kidding. Now, does it have to be a hockey player or no?
No.
No.
Anybody, dead or alive, athlete, you know, could be anything.
I think we had a president at one point. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Oh my God, let me think here. Dude, this is an impossible question to answer off the cuff. Let's go Wayne. I'm going to just stick with hockey. Wayne Gretzky, Gordie Howe. And you know what? I'll throw my brother in there because I want to watch him blow up.
I don't know. That's a tough one. I'm going to say Tiger Woods.
There you go.
Michael Jordan. And Wayne Gretzky.
There we go. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick with hockey guys too. I think I'd like to talk to or have golf with Stan Mikita, Bobby Orr, and Gordie Howe. The old
Nice.
guys. I like the old guys.
Nice.
No, Jason. I thought you would have your wife in there. No, see, I can't play.
Those were guys that Marshy played with or played against.
Nice. Well, guys, I don't want to take any much any more of your time. I appreciate you guys taking a little bit of time to come on here and answer some questions. I know our customers and our viewers are really going to enjoy getting some of the personal insight from all three of you along with your hockey journey and some perspective on some of the topics that we discussed. I hope that it kind of finds our customers at a good time and a good place, as we know that the opening of our buildings, that we can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So got fingers crossed that we get the good word to reopen soon. But until then, we've got some good stories from you guys for our customers to listen to. So thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Yeah.
I just want to say thanks for the time that you guys spend with us on the rink as well. I know that having
Yeah.
80 kids out there is always interesting, and we appreciate you guys' energy and what you guys bring to the table. So thank you for that as well.
Yep. Appreciate it, guys. You guys are doing a great job.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
for all you
guys.
do.
Thanks. Yeah, for all our customers, thanks for tuning in. Until we see you next week, stay safe.